a wonderful woman, when she was a young kid in elementary school, was in constant trouble. She didn't pay attention, she fidgeted a great deal and tended to get up and wander around. Eventually, the school contacted her mother and said that they thought Gillian had a learning difficulty, and they explained to her what she should do and that she should take Gillian to see a specialist. And her mother was naturally devastated to hear that. He asked to go and sit at the far end of the room on this leather sofa, and he talked to her mother about all the problems Gillian was having and asked her to describe them. And she said all this time that her mother was speaking to him, he was staring at Gillian. And she said, I was uncomfortable and I was sitting on my hands so I wouldn't fidget. This went on for several minutes, and then he stood up and he said to Gillian, look, this has been very interesting, Gillian, but I need to speak to your mother privately now. So if you wait here, we're going to leave you, but we'll be back. We won't be very far away. We'll come back in a few minutes. And she said they got up and they went out. But as they went out, he leaned across his desk and turned the radio on. And they got into the corridor, apparently, and he turned to her mother and said, just stand here for a moment and watch her, see what she does. She said there was a window back into the room, so she couldn't see them, but they could see her. She said the minute they were out of the room, she was on her feet, moving to the music. She said she danced around on top of the sofa, on the tables, and she said because she'd been sitting still for so long. They watched this for a couple of minutes, and he turned to her mother, and he said, Mrs. Lynn, Gillian isn't sick. She's a dancer. Take her to a dance school. And she did. She went to the Royal Ballet School, and she said, I walked into this room and said, I'll never forget it. It was full of people like me, people who couldn't sit still. And as she put it, people who had to move to think. She was eventually accepted into the Royal Ballet, and then she became a soloist, a principal and a soloist, and had a wonderful career at the Royal Ballet, traveled the world with them. And then when she left, she formed her own company, the Gillian Lynn Dance Company, put all kinds of productions on in Broadway and the West End. Then she met Andrew Lloyd Webber, as an accomplished and very successful dancer and choreographer at this point. And Andrew asked her if she would choreograph Cats, which she did, and Phantom of the Opera, and other of his productions. She became his principal choreographer. She went on to give pleasure to millions and became a multi-millionaire. And it's perfectly possible these days that somebody else would tell her to sit down, calm down, and take these tablets. And she wasn't sick. She was a dancer. And I feel this for an awful lot of people, that if you stereotype people against a very narrow view of ability, then you automatically generate a very big conception of inability, and at worst, of disability. A lot of what goes on in our school systems is not the result of legislation, it's the result of habit and ritual. There is nothing anywhere, really, in most of our systems that requires that we educate kids by age group. We just do, because we think you have to, but you don't. And outside of schools, we wouldn't think of doing that. When kids leave school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock, we don't say, now all the 4-year-olds be sure to go over there. Keep away from 8-year-olds, bad things happen, we know. Communities are intergenerational. We don't have to divide the day into subjects. We just do. You don't have to. There are lots of great schools that don't do that and having wonderful success as a result. Creativity is one of the defining characteristics of our species. It's one of the things that makes us human. We create the lives that we live through the possibilities we see and the opportunities we take, or the ones we step away from. It's how people's lives are transformed by discovering a talent and a passion and a purpose that goes with it. It's what the Gillian Lynn story is about. Creativity, in other words, isn't some exotic byproduct that happens to be present in a few people. We've come to think of it that way, but it's not true. Creativity is the pulse of human life. It's, we live in a city that wasn't here 150 years ago like this. This is being created by the interplay of millions of minds working together, collaborating. We're all of us now bathed in the great net of the World Wide Web and all of its works. This is new to our generation. This didn't happen before. It didn't come into being. It didn't come around like the oceans. We made this. Somebody designed the clothes that we wear. Creativity is what contributes to the nature of our humanity. We can use it and we can misuse it. So to me, saying that education should cultivate children's creative capacities isn't kind of an appeal to have some extra hour of free play-based activities on a Friday afternoon, though I think we should have free play-based activities on a Friday afternoon. It's to recognize that there is a set of capacities here which isn't separate from, but it's integrated with everything else that we do.